Hey everyone, so today I correct the video I made that, let's be honest here, okay, that video was a mistake. My original Locked Knight Straight Sword review was a mistake. I never should have made that when I was so new to the game. I should have waited. Now I am correcting my mistake. I am not hiding that I made a mistake. I'm not taking that video down, anything. I am choosing to simply debunk everything I said in that video as, keep in mind, I used to listen to PvP skills. Okay? I used to listen to him. I used to freaking hate straight swords because he said they were the meta weapon. I used to hate this weapon because it was a straight sword. I never even gave the weapon class a chance. As I started to get more in tune with the weapon class, I ended up liking it, and it became one of my two main weapon classes. Okay, I wanted to say all that before we begin. So the Locked Knight Straight Sword has now become, honestly, the weapon I use all the damn time. It is quite fast, like it's a straight sword, of course. And as I said in my new straight sword review, it's a good weapon. Like, of the straight swords I've used, it is the best straight sword. Because its R2s are primarily thrusting. Like, watch this. R2, 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 all thrusts. It's not that piece of garbage I made it out to be before. It's actually a very versatile weapon. It's like, I've cleared half the game in a couple hours with this thing. Okay? Not including the time it took me to farm it, mind you, because, well, it's not a guaranteed drop. So I'm not including the time it took me to get it, seeing as that varies. Just depending on how lucky you are. And I'm not really talking about the stat, I'm more talking about, like, the actual concept of luck. Which, if I sound irritated, I am. I'm irritated with myself for making the old video. I'm irritated that I made that video in the first place. But I'm not hiding that I made it. I am correcting it instead. I'm not going to hide that I made a mistake. Instead, I'm going to fix my mistake. I'm trying to be more mature about it than just, oh, this is bad, I need to take this down. No. I mean, there was one video I took down for a similar reason, but I took it down because I'm not that person anymore, and I don't want people mistaking me for that person. It wasn't so much to hide that I used to, well, I used to hate on people that like Selnile. I made a video on it. I was very harsh about it. I took it down because it was immature. It was not an okay thing to say. And I deeply regret making that video. I took it down because I didn't want people coming to my channel and mistaking that for who I am. That was a totally different thing. Now, let's focus on this weapon though. So, it's got all the advantages I mentioned in my previous straight sword video, being a straight sword. It is very similar to a curved sword, honestly, as far as moveset and speed. It's not quite as quick as a curved sword, but in exchange, it gets a thrust. It's still not as good as a curved sword, because, well, the curved sword is just, it's just faster. Like, honestly, a weapon with a good moveset that's very similar to another weapon, what it comes down to between the two classes is speed versus thrusting. And in the end, curved swords having crazy weapons like the Pontiff Knight curved sword and the scimitar, and just being a little bit faster is all it takes for them to be the superior weapon. But that doesn't make straight swords bad. They are a very good weapon, and overall more versatile because they have a thrust. But ultimately, like, they aren't the meta. That would be curved swords. So, of the weapons I have used, the Lkss Knight Straight Sword gets the second highest damage of any straight sword. Now, the only weapon I've used that actually beats it out for damage is the broadsword. Which, don't get me wrong, the broadsword's an okay weapon. Like, it has this speed and a similar moveset to most straight swords, but you can't thrust with it, which makes no sense considering how sharp the point it has is. You get less range with it. And while that may not sound like a lot, the thrust alone makes it so much weaker. But the Lkss Knight Sword... Oh, you're kidding me. And I rolled his dodge, too. Like, his grab. Like, I don't know if I missed the iframes by, like, half a second or something, but I rolled that grab. Anyways, so other than the broadsword, the Lkss Knight Sword has the most damage of every straight sword I know of. And again, I can't speak to the Goddard Twin Swords or the Ring Knight Straight Sword, as I have not used them. I have not used either of those weapons. I can't speak to them. I can't speak to the Sunlight Straight Sword either. But honestly, like, the Lkss Knight Sword, don't make the mistake of thinking because it's in the first area of the game that it's bad. Dark Souls is not your typical RPG. It's not like, oh, the later in the game it is, the better it is. Most RPGs are like that. Dark Souls isn't. Okay, don't make the mistake of thinking that. The Lkss Knight Straight Sword is actually a very, very powerful weapon, even among its own weapon class, which is already very, very good. Like, I mean, I'm always using straight swords. They're never really going to let you down. I mean, usually, if you're losing with a straight sword, it's because you're under level or you're mistiming your dodges, usually. Because they're just so versatile. They can be used on any build and everything. The Lkss Knight Sword will literally fit onto any build with really good damage. Like, no matter what build I use this thing on, I get damage comparable to the mace. The mace. A hammer. You're kidding me, right? Can I just roll this thing's freaking ground? I have literally killed this thing 50 times in a row before. Why can I not get it this time? But yeah, the Lothric Knight Straight Sword. It is very early game. Its stats are incredibly low at 11 strength and 18 dexterity. And mine is only +1. My build is kind of really early game, so it's kind of trash. And it is a jack of all trades, so my build is not going to maximize damage at all. And with hardly anything going into it, 144 AR. That's not bad. And yes, I suck at naming characters. But yeah, 144 damage, almost right off the bat, not bad. And when I use my buff, Magic Weapon, which is one of the weaker buffing spells, it jumps up to 214. That's 214 AR, split damage or not, right off the bat is pretty good. And I'll show you I'm not just pulling your leg when I get a little closer to the Stray Demon, because I don't want to waste a buff. But I'll show you, I'm not kidding. It's a decent buff. And this is the weakest sorcery buff in the entire game, so... So let me just show you real quick. See? I wasn't kidding. 219. Hate that attack. Like, there's no dodging it. You can dodge the beginning of it or the end of it, but you still get hit by the other half of it. It's like, you cannot dodge it no matter what you do. It's annoying as heck. And that's why you never want to get at a distance with this thing. I don't care if you're a caster or not. Because if you get at a distance, it will spew those boulders at you and screw you over. Yeah, I'm getting way too greedy. There we go. But yeah, so would I recommend this weapon to a beginner? Well, yes, actually. In fact, it is the weapon I would recommend strongest to a beginner, because it's, which is 100% contrary to what I said in the previous video I made on this thing. It is the exact opposite. But keep in mind, I was a beginner when I made that video. I knew nothing. Nothing. I had no clue what I was talking about, even though I thought I did. This is the weapon I would recommend to a beginner more than any other weapon, because it's super easy to use. And it's just powerful. Like, it's a straight sword. That alone makes it strong. But it only requires 11 strength and 18 dexterity. Right off the bat, we're getting a C in dex and a D in strength. That's not bad. It's infusible, buffable. You can upgrade it with normal Titanite, so it can go all the way to +10. It gets good damage right off the bat. Like, I'm doing... With my buff, I am doing 219. That's pretty good. It only weighs 4. It only weighs 4 pounds. Which is actually accurate of a real sword. A lot of people think a real sword is like this really heavy thing that a big dude is required to use. No. No. I mean, keep in mind this is still fantasy, but swords aren't these big, heavy things that most people can't use. For example, the katana. Everybody in ancient Japan carried a katana. It was like the go-to... Well, I don't know if everybody did. I don't know that level of history. I'm not a history teacher. That's not what I do. I'm a gamer. But it was a very good self-defense sword. It was not a battle sword or anything like that, but it was effective as a self-defense cutter. That's what it was made to be. It is very effective in what it was made for. But even that, it's like, it's not that heavy. Okay? Like, a simple tachi was not that heavy. It was... Like, honestly, the realistic weapons, the weapons that are historically accurate in Dark Souls, I'd say are rather accurate in weight as well. Like, the Claymore weighs... I think it's about 9 pounds in the game. I'd say that's honestly pretty accurate. I mean, I know greatswords can get up to like 14, 15 pounds, but I know this has nothing to do with the game, but I just want to point that out, that real swords are not these huge, heavy things everyone thinks they are. It's just a piece of steel. Really, it's not a big, heavy thing. So, back to the weapon. Altered Knight Sword, very valuable weapon to have. Very early game. It's not going to outrange a spear with its thrusting, of course. But that's another thing I want to talk about. Like most straight swords, it has stance, which is the single most powerful guard break in all of Dark Souls 3. You could explore every nook and cranny of every place in Dark Souls. You will not find a better guard break in Dark Souls 3 than this. It will pretty much one-shot any guard. Any guard. And then you can go right into a riposte for big damage, which this has a slight bit extra critical damage too, which, like, it helps. It's not a major thing you need to worry about, but it helps when you're facing a turtle to just go like, boom, boom, and you've riposted them. That helps. That does help a lot. That's a big deal. Being able to just break a guard, go for a riposte, especially in PvE, where you face so many knights that are just turtling you all the time. Having stance there, just to break any guard instantly, is so helpful. Like, I have never hit a single enemy that was blocking and not broken their guard with stance. Not one enemy. Well, I've never actually tried it against the Dragon Slayer armor, to be fair. I don't think that would work, though, just because it's sort of part of the boss. I don't know. I don't think it would work on a boss fight. But it's a very powerful guard break that you cannot take for granted. The other thing is the R2 attack for stance counts as thrust damage and has some pretty good hyper armor. So say you're about to take an attack, you can trade with this, and I just flaked on that big time, and you can do some pretty heavy damage. Especially because there's not really an enemy that is fully resistant to thrust unless their whole thing is being resistant to thrust damage. That's just not, you're just not going to find an enemy that's that resistant. And even so, like, physical's going to do good damage. It doesn't matter what you're facing. Physical is just, it's consistent in damage. It's not like fire, where if you're fighting a demon, you're going to do like a third of your normal damage. Not like that. Physical is one of the hardest types of damage. Well, it is the hardest type of damage to defend against, which most weapons are physical, and I mean, other than dark, really every good, and lightning, really every good type of damage is physical. So that's another thing going for the Lothric Knight Straight-Sword. It's a purely physical weapon. Like almost every weapon in the game, but still. And again, this can be buffed with anything, and it can be used on any build. Any build. And I don't just mean like it can be used. I mean it can be effectively used. And it can do some serious damage. I don't know why you would run it on a hollow build, but it would probably even do good damage there. Like, you cannot deny the power of the Lothric Knight Straight-Sword. And on top of everything it has going for it strength-wise, the, like, overall power, not the stat. It's just overall a good-looking weapon. Like, if you really take the time to look at the Lothric Knight Sword, it's honestly a pretty beautiful, majestic weapon for what Dark Souls is. It's, not gonna lie, it's a little clunky for my taste. Like, it's a bit fat for a straight sword to me. But, I mean, that's just me. Fashion-wise, the longsword's my favorite. But, I can't deny the overall sheer power of the Lothric Knight Straight-Sword. And I don't care if you're a beginner, an expert, a novice, you've been playing for a little while, but you're not really a veteran. Like, okay, so I would consider myself, honestly, I'd consider myself an expert on the game. Like, I know my stuff. I know what I'm talking about. But I wouldn't consider myself a veteran, seeing as I haven't PvP'd at all, because I can't, and I haven't beat the game. But I know my gear, I know my damage types, I know all the statistical stuff, so I would consider myself a Dark Souls expert, not a veteran. But I don't care where you classify. I don't care if you classify as an expert, a veteran, a beginner, a novice, a noob. I don't care what you qualify as. This is a good weapon. This is a powerful weapon that will never let you down. It is obtainable. Really? Like, if you count all bonfires, including the Shrine bonfire and Tutorial bonfire, you can farm this from the 4th bonfire in the game. The 4th bonfire. Early enough for you? And it's one of the most powerful weapons I've ever used. Like, this weapon is a powerhouse. It looks so simple and modest, but, like, in Dark Souls, simple and modest is really every good weapon in the game. I mean, sure, there's exceptions. I'm not denying that there are some fancy weapons that are very, very good. Onyx Blade comes to mind. Freed Scythe comes to mind. I'm not denying that. But most good weapons are simple looking and plain looking. But at the same time can be pretty beautiful. Like, okay, I'm not a fashion freak. I'm not one of those, but I can appreciate a well-crafted sword or spear or whatever. I can appreciate a well-crafted weapon, whether it's fake or not. Whether it's just a model or not. Like, I don't care what it is. I can appreciate a well-made sword. And honestly, like, just looking at the Lothric Knight sword, it's sharp. And it's got some range to it. Like, this would be a pretty good weapon in real life, I'd say. I mean, the handguard could use a little improvement. And those... But, like, even those, little things sticking out of the very bottom of the blade, I think could actually work very well in real life in tandem with the handguard to just sort of like catch an enemy's blade so they have to pull it out of there, and while they're trying to do that you can just like bring the sword down on them and give them a really good shot to the face. Like, it would be a powerful weapon in real life, I think. And I mean, it's not that much different from the longsword. Honestly, like, look. But this is just looking at it. Like, we don't know what this thing is made out of. Okay, it could be made out of some fantasy material. I don't know because it's a freaking video game weapon. But, honestly, I'm just spouting whatever the heck I have to say about the weapon at this point because there's not much to say about it in-game. It's a powerful weapon. It will never let you down. It can be obtained very early. It's versatile. Works on most builds. It's got a lot going for it. So yeah, at this point, I'm just saying whatever I have to say about the weapon. Which, yes, on this build, early enough I haven't fought the Abyss Watchers, but I started this build like yesterday, and I'm already to the Watchers, so... Is the weapon good? Yes. Yes, absolutely. The Lothric Knight Sword is amazing. You can't deny this weapon is good. Like, anyone that has used the Lothric Knight Sword can honestly say it's pretty powerful. I don't know what I was on when I made that last video. I was so wrong about this weapon in so many ways. I don't know what was going through my head when I made that last video. But, yeah. You cannot neglect the power of this weapon. And yes, I'm using the armor said to be used by every noob, the Fallen Knight set, but let me just... Okay, so to prove I'm not just wearing this because I think it's super good, let me show you what gear I have. As you can see, I don't have a lot to work with. So, yeah. If you want to use this weapon, if you like the way it looks, if you like straight swords, go ahead. This thing is amazing. I love this weapon so much. And it's really quite a stable for me. Although, if you for any reason want to use it on a faith build, I do have to mention this. For some odd reason, the Lothric Knight Straight Sword gets more damage on Blessed than Lightning. Why, I do not know. I don't know why this thing is better on Blessed than Lightning. But it's a powerful weapon, no matter what build you use it on. And, I mean, if you're going to use a straight sword on Faith, you might as well use the Sunlight Straight Sword, but, you're going to need something you can use until you beat the Dancer and can kill a Mimic that's guarded by fire-breathing dragons, actually tough Lothric Knights, guys healing the Lothric Knights, maybe even an Outrider Knight if you take the wrong path. Like, on Faith you're going to need something to get you through till the Sunlight Straight Sword, which, honestly, I don't think is as good. I mean, maybe it's personal preference. I've never actually used the Sunlight Straight Sword. I don't know. I know it's a Faith optimized straight sword, but I prefer the Lothric Knight sword, even when talking about Faith. This is my go-to weapon. This is my ace weapon. This is the weapon I use all the time. If I were to just do things like Chase the Bro does with invasion streams, which I can't, obviously, one, I can't stream, two, I can't invade. Or I were to do a Let's Play, which I might, but the reason I'm waiting on that is Demon Souls. I have Demon Souls. I have Demon Souls, the remake one, just waiting for a PS5. They're hard to get a hold of. And I don't know, my playthrough might be Demon Souls, but, like, I've already got so much planned for the channel and everything. Like, I need to get back to the Murder of Me series. I need to redo every single weapon review I have ever done before 2021, because they are all out of date. They are all completely wrong. Well, my greatsword one isn't too bad. But, I mean, it's still out of date. And, on top of all that, I've recently started a freaking Red Dead Redemption playthrough, which, honestly, probably a mistake to put that much more on top of it, as, like, it was probably a mistake in the sense that it's a long game, okay? It is a long as heck game. I think it's like 3 times longer than Dark Souls. Which, of course, there are people that use glitches and hacks to speedrun it in half an hour and all this stuff. Which, not having to fight Aldrich and just beating her up from below is ridiculous. That's not beating the game, that's breaking the game. Anyways, I'm rambling. I have exhausted everything I have to say about this weapon. I don't even have any, like, real life comparisons left for this thing. Like, I'm out of stuff to say on this weapon. It's simple. It is not complex. It is a simple weapon. It's simple but effective. Okay? It's a lot of power and speed in a small package. Basically. Good moveset. It's a reliable weapon. It will not let you down. That's all I had to say about the loss of Nightsword, plus a little rambling. But see you all next time, everyone.